All right, 56 frame. Today we are here with H.D Hunter and DJ Johnson. Thank you for agreeing to have this interview with us. If you could just tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, for sure. Hugh, H.D Hunter, born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia. Went to Emory University. Also went to Wake Forest University School of Business. Been writing since I can remember, since I was a little kid. It's always been a passion of mine. So I've been living in New England for the past couple of years, but trying to make a return to Georgia and really get my writing career off the ground.
Okay, I'm Donahue Johnson, DJ Johnson. I'm a graduate of Albany State University. I'm a freelance graphic designer, illustrator, graphic designer. I pretty much do it all visual. Also, I was born in Texas, Houston, Texas, and I was raised in Atlanta, Georgia.
All right. So today we are here to talk about a project that you all have been working on. The book called A Magic Door in the Lost Kingdom of Peace. First, I'd just like to ask, what was the inspiration behind the name, the title?
That's a good question. So it comes from a play called A Long Day's Journey into Night by Eugene O'Neill, who's an American playwright. It's a pretty interesting play, but basically the thought behind that line in the play is, which is also the epigraph of the book, says, obsessed with the fairy tale, we spend our lives searching for a magic door in a lost kingdom of peace. So I use that to frame the book around the concept that as we grow up, we see certain things in the media, we're told certain stories from people we love and friends that we meet of how life is supposed to be. And we spend the younger part of our lives thinking that everything is going to turn out, how we were told or how we've seen. At a certain point in your life, you're going to get to a juncture where things are going to go wrong. And when they do go wrong, it's about how you bounce back from that and how you're able to recreate yourself to achieve your dreams. So, the obsession with that fairy tale is kind of something that we're battling in the book, getting across whatever obstacles are that disrupt your idea of what reality should be, and then overcoming that so you're able to succeed.
All right. And with such an abstract title and theme, where did you draw the inspiration for the covers?
Okay. The cover kind of stems from, we wanted to make it kind of fairy tales. So I took a lot of references from Alice in Wonderland, things like that. I look back at a lot of the old school things, the perception of time, and his idea with the door, I wanted that to be illuminated to show like the interest inside. That's what it's like. To me, I see it as a gateway through the book. You know what I mean? You look at that door, and that's your perception is you want to go inside and read the rest of it. So it's a lot of other things in there, especially on the back cover as well.
So is this a kid's book?
So it's not a children's book. No, the DJ, my illustrator, he did a great job with making the book, very aesthetically pleasing. It's really creatively done. It's bright colors and it's vibrant. But I would gauge the book probably from young adults who are 18 up through kind of more traditional adults who are maybe late 20s, early 30s, because the situations in the stories are very serious situations. We're dealing with things about relationships, friendships, substance abuse in some cases, and so real life situations that young adults face. And I think the most creative part of the book is that we're able to still be creative with it through the illustrations and play up on something that you don't see very often. You don't see adult books with illustrations that will really catch your eye graphically. So it's the intersection of a lot of different interests of mine and idea of DJs, but I think it came together pretty well.
Okay. You mentioned relationships, so that makes me think about on page 89. It's titled Gridlock. What was the inspiration, the story behind that?
Yeah, so this is I think one of the most interesting stories in the book, and ironically enough, I hit a crossroads where I always wanted there to be 10 stories in the book. And I wrote probably about 15 or 16 and then kind of gleaned down the 10 that I wanted to use from there. And I had 9, I guess I had 14, and I couldn't decide which of the remaining 4 to use for the 10th story. I was writing, I was really having a hard time, and so I just kind of went to sleep. When I went to sleep, I had the dream that led to the story almost in its entirety. The entire situation of the story came to me in a dream. So I woke up probably about 3 or 4 a.m. and wrote everything that I could remember down. And then from there, I started to build more of the details around the concept that I had in the dream. I added some characters in from people that I know personally and some other situations, but it was really the luck of inspiration for that one.
All right. And, Gridlock's a pretty intense story. Did you have to find yourself having trouble reading these stories to come up with the illustrations?
No, the stories were so interesting. Like I really didn't struggle. The only time I really struggled is when I had more than like 4 or 5 ideas at a time. Like Gridlock, the whole story was so far off, like something I had really never heard of or thought about like that. That the actual drawing that came about it, I had to make that so simple to fit everything that actually happened in that story in one little scene.
All right, so what would you say was the hardest thing about creating this whole production?
So for me, I would say just the concept of self-publishing, right? As an artist or as an author, you think that my primary objective is to write or to create art. And then when you take it into actually owning your material and marketing your material and producing it, it brings in a completely different level of focus and expertise that a lot of young creative people don't have. So not only did I spend time writing the book, I had to spend time researching on the best practices for making sure that I could get the copyright in my name, making sure that it was formatted so that it's available for the Kindle and iBooks, the various platforms, so that people can use it. After that was done, I had to figure out what the good pricing structure was so that I'd be able to sell it and ship it and make enough profit to continue to print books and then sell those. And that's been the most difficult part, but it's also been the most rewarding part, and it's the fun part, because even though the book is, I'm done writing it now, every day there's a way in which I can get a new word out about it or have somebody read it and it piques a different interest, so then we can kind of highlight it from a different angle.
What would you say was the hardest part for you to make the illustrations?
Okay, the hardest part I believe about the book was just trying to make it as great as, the illustrations as great as some of these stories. Like a lot of the stories had so many characters and interesting ideas and things that I've never even drawn before. So reaching out to him and working back and forth with it, like doing it through emails and etc., trying to make this book the best that we can possibly make. So I believe coming up with the illustrations for the story and understanding the story's actual meaning was probably the toughest part of it.
And to add on to that, I really think that's why we were able to collaborate well. DJ takes art really seriously, and when I brought the project to him, I knew that he wasn't going to treat it as these are kind of one-off things that I'm doing as a graphic designer. He really understood the whole concept of these are individual stories, but they have to fit together. And so he dedicated a lot of time and effort into truly understanding not just the visually appealing elements of the story, but actually what they meant. And to this day, I've had a lot of people, want to purchase the book or want to learn more about it just because of the front cover, and there's no substitute for that. As good as whatever is on the inside might be, you have to catch people's attention, and I really wouldn't have been able to do that without such great art on the front.
Do you have a favorite story or a favorite illustration in the book?
Yeah, okay, I think the story that played out well with the illustration the most was probably the Atari Force. Is that I'm trying to make sure? Okay, yeah. To me, that's like the best one, because just the perception of the illustration and how, like, if you look deep inside of that image, there's a lot of things going on, a lot of different characters in it, and I don't know, it's just the way everything played out, the color and how good it came out in the book. It's probably like my favorite.
Yeah, Atari is a great story. It's kind of my reimagining of the fairy tale Hansel and Gretel. I take a different spin on it. I think it's a little bit darker than some of the other reimaginings of the fairy tale. It's interesting. My favorite story is the first story in the book. It's called The Southern District. I actually wrote this story in 2011 when I was a freshman in college, and it was the first story that I ever published in some lit mags back then. It's always been really near and dear to my heart. It's based on experiences that I went through personally, so I felt it was only right to include it in my first, full collection of books that I published myself. It's really about, being in a place where it's hard to feel accepted, and some of the emotions that are going through a person's mind at that point in time, and how they're able to manage them. So it's pretty creative. That was another one that I had sort of a dream inspiration for, but that's my favorite story. My favorite illustration. They're all so good. They're all so good. I think probably Real Monsters, which is the last story in the book. DJ was able to, of course, read the whole story and understand it, but he took one piece, one quick scene. It's probably only a paragraph or so of text, and he illustrated that scene so perfectly to illuminate everything that happens in the rest of the story that it's the kind of thing where you'll look at it before you read read the story and you're like, huh, this looks really interesting. And you read the story and you immediately want to go back and look at the imagery again because you know that you're going to pick up so much more than you did initially. So that is a really good one.
All right. If you could describe the Southern District for people who haven't read the book yet, how would you describe it?
Man, I describe it. I describe it as utopia. So it's my own personal utopia. You know, you think about the things that make you happy in life, and kind of when you're going through stressful situations, you put yourself in a mind state of going to, some people call it a happy place, right? So the main character in the story is a college freshman. He's going through a lot of turmoil in terms of his social life and his parents, and he gets depressed. And when he's depressed, he uses sleep as an escape from depression. And during sleep, he has a dream about this place that he's dreamed up called the Southern District. The Southern District is a huge, it's like a warehouse building, and instead of having stores, it just has positive vibes. It has his imagination. His mind creates these places within this big warehouse that are able to make him happy. He has a lot of friends there, and he has a costume that represents his personality. So his costume is a lion, kind of on the inside. The things that he's not able to express and project because of his personality in real life, they come through in the dream. So when I think about the Southern District, it's like, you know, I'm going through so many problems and I really want a getaway, I want an escape. And you create that escape in your mind. And for me personally, my escape has always been writing. So it's a pretty neat story. If you've ever felt, you know, a little bit down and just wanted to know how you can envision something to work towards as a goal to get, then I think the story will resonate with you.
All right, and how would you say that for both of you, your life, as far as your background, influences your art?
Life has everything to do with the art. When I first got into writing, it was because there are so many folks that have stories that go untold. You know, every day that we live is probably multiple stories. There are things that happen that kind of get thrown by the wayside or that aren't documented, but I use the idea of life experiences to become folk tales as valid. So when you go to a family reunion or you go to a cookout, you know, what do? You share stories about the past. You share stories about what happened with your friends or your aunt or your uncle. And those things become near and dear to families and friend groups because they are real. And instead of using fairy tales with completely imaginary characters and things of that nature, I've been able to take those real situations and make them folk tales in a way that we've already been using them. We probably just haven't seen it very often in books. So story is, like I said before, an intersection of a lot of things. You know, I'm very passionate about social justice. I'm very passionate about art. I'm very passionate about you know, literature itself. I'm very passionate about my friendships and relationships. And so all of those things converge to create this book in a way that you know, folks really just haven't seen before, in my opinion.
A lot went into the books, and a lot went into the book, and a lot went into the stories. And basically, from my idea, that a lot of the influences came from childlike things. You know what I mean? The book is very serious, but it was my first time in a while that I got to draw like a kid again. You know what I mean? Not everything had to be proportional. Not everything had to make sense. So this is the first time, like, I got to just be free. You know, draw and use colors that I normally don't use. Use color theory and things that I learned just a long time ago, and got a chance to be able to bring those back and, you know, envelop it all into the story. It just worked out well. It's definitely what influenced me, childlike.
I think that's perfect that you said that, because especially the part about not everything having to be proportionate and not everything having to make sense, because that's a major theme of the story. You know, some of the stories are cliffhanger endings. Some of the stories, none of the stories probably are kind of neat and clean endings like we're used to getting in literature, because that's not how life is. And so I think it's a really accurate reflection of a bunch of different aspects of life, but particularly for people of color. I mean, I think that's one big thing that we haven't touched on. All of the illustrations, you know, front cover, back cover, all of the illustrations that are inside the book represent people of color. And we're not seeing these people of color in situations where they're dealing with colonialism or kind of civil rights or slavery, which are all very valid topics, but it's become the norm. You know, when black writers and black artists get together to produce work, that's the topic. And as much of an important topic as it is, I think it's become a topic that non-people of color really find novel. They want to hear us talk about slavery. They want to hear us talk about you know, Africa and how other countries came in and colonized. What we've done is to normalize the black experience into just life experience. These stories that you read, they can happen to anybody, no matter where they come from or what their background is. But for a kid, a young adult, reading this book and to see people of color, people who look like them represented in real life situations that are happening, not something that's so far off that they can't wrap their mind around it, I think it does something to have work and to have art that represents you, even on that subliminal level. So that's something that we're both really proud of.
And how did you two meet?
I really can't even remember.
Yeah, man, it is hard to remember the exact day that we met. We're fraternity brothers, of course, and I always followed his work even before I was working on the book. I thought he was a phenomenal artist. And yeah, I still think that. I still think that. And so when I had the idea to start writing the book, the illustrations was kind of an afterthought. I thought I was going to do it the traditional method, but like I said, I'm a fan of art. So I got about halfway through the book and I said, there's something missing here. And I just happened to go back and look at some of DJ's pages and some of the work that he had done. And I was like, well, I mean, if he's open to doing it, then we'll see if we can form a partnership. So I pitched the idea to him, and he was interested in it. Of course, we already had a rapport from, you know, just knowing of each other previously, but definitely got a lot closer during the process. It was a pretty long process of writing and illustrating together, and I'm glad we did. He really saved me in a lot of ways.
I mean, I think him being so business driven, you know what I mean? A lot of people come to you with different projects and things of that nature and don't really have the guidelines prepared. And he came with me stories written and titles and everything was ready to go, you know what I mean? And it was a lot easier, and he was very easy to work with. Like, everything moved so swiftly. Like, if I drew something, immediately that story came in the next 2 days, or you know what I'm saying? And it was all prepared well. And he's always been an educated man. Like, I've always known him as somebody who is driven to do great things. So working with somebody who's doing great things also helps you do great things. So I'm very proud of the work. I'm glad I did meet him and accomplish it.
Where can we purchase this book?
So right now, if you would like to purchase a digital copy, then you can get it at pretty much any of the popular properties that digital ebooks are sold. You can get it on Amazon Kindle, you can get it on iBooks, if you have the Barnes & Noble app, you can get that as well. In terms of distribution, I'm handling it all personally at this point in time. Maybe not forever, hopefully not forever. But I have an online store set up at H, as in Hugh, D, as in dog, H, as in Hugh again, Rights, WRITES, .bigcartel, BIGCARTEL.com. It's my online store, hdhrights.bigcartel.com, and I ship all the copies personally. If you would like me to sign it, I can definitely do that before I mail it out.
Is there anything else that you would like to let the people know about?
Man, it's all in the book. That's what I'm gonna say. There's so much that I could say about it, but the reason why I love art and the reason why I love literature are because they span the test of time. You know, long after I'm gone, long after people know who I am, the book will still be in existence, and there's going to be somebody that reads it that can take something from it. You know, I'm not sure what it is. They probably won't be sure what it is when they start reading, but I know that there are you know, valuable things inside the art and the literature for people to take. So you know, we appreciate all the support that we've gotten up until this point. Everybody who's helped us with promotion, just ideas, just support in terms of encouragement. And I would say just please keep supporting us and get a book. Check it out.
All right, again, I want to thank H.D Hunter and DJ Johnson for joining 56 Frame today.